have the mic.
Thank you. My name is Reggie Stewart. I'm a Dorchester resident. Just wanted to first thank Councilors Anderson and Mejia for your advocacy around reparations.
Mrs. Stewart, could you move closer to the mic?
How's this? Oh, much better. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councilors Anderson and Mejia for your advocacy on reparations, your solidarity with the descendant community. I think it's a model for the country, to be honest. Thank you, Lori, for being accessible. I know for a lot of Black people in Boston, finding their municipal government accessible is quite the challenge. And as we're talking about transparency and accountability, this isn't a dig at any individual per se, but there are definitely logistical and systemic issues that are just clawing at us. Up to this point, there's been 8 meetings held. Out of those 8 meetings, only 2 have video recordings of community feedback and testimony. Public notices for meetings until recently were often given at the very last minute. There's been numerous cancellations with little to no notice without any real explanation. And because of that, a lot of people feel that the city has been doing the bare minimum to meet its obligations under the open meeting law. And when I look around the country, I see detailed accountings of reparations meetings, recordings, documents that are easily and fully accessible in cities like Asheville, North Carolina, Evanston, Illinois, Providence, Rhode Island, San Francisco, California. And when you compare the care with which other cities and towns have archived this important conversation that hasn't been had since Reconstruction, and you see the way the city handles it, logistically speaking, the Boston Reparations Task Force is a national joke. And it may sound like I'm complaining, but I'm not. I'm confused. And I'm sure a lot of people here share that confusion because there's a lot of questions that no one's really seems to be able to answer directly. And I see a huge gap between the legislative intent of the sponsors of the ordinance, the council that voted unanimously on that ordinance, and what we're seeing playing out here. And I guess the quite burning question, I think for everybody, is like, who exactly is in charge here? Like, who do I go to if I have a question or an issue, or if I want to say thank you, or this is going right? Like, where does that buck stop? Fine, yes, there's an email, but that doesn't really help. Like, who schedules the meetings? Who sets the agenda? Who's responsible for recording and archiving? Who holds task force members accountable for chronic absenteeism? Because that is something that we've seen. Who was responsible for, in my view, was the disastrous rollout of the Grassroots Partnership Program. I'm happy for its existence, but in what world is 3 business days enough for an average Bostonian to submit a proposal and to register as a vendor, especially without a 501c3? Now, as someone who's connected to the ADOS Empowerment Project, all I had to do was push a button. But the average Bostonian does not walk around with a 501c3 or a fiscal sponsor in their back pocket to turn out something like that in the matter of 3 days. So how are these community voices to be heard? And I'm even more disappointed, finding out that this was introduced in May of 2023, and then it's dumped on the community at the last minute. And again, logistically and structurally, this is like the most callous, irresponsible, dismissive process that I've seen on any subject. And in my view, I think it's symptomatic of Mayor Wu's administration's attitude towards Black people and their issues. Because like when I run down reparations, I look at housing, I look at the BPDA, I look at elected school board. It seems the mayor has this attitude that I don't have to listen to black people, and that the things that affect them is not something that I have to take seriously. That's just how it looks. So I say again, who's in charge? And when I hear everyone here, I get the sense that when it's time to ask the questions that need to be asked, I get the sense that people's hands are tied. So I'm hoping, counselors, chairs, task force members, advisors, chiefs, whatever, if your hands are tied, tell me how. How can we untie them together? If there is someone tying your hands, name them so that we can deal with them together. Because, to make this a success, I have your back, community has your back. And just one more thing that President Lujan spoke to in terms of, it may seem like a cart before the horse as we've not got to the recommendations, but she brought up a very salient point in terms of how do we craft recommendations and policy in light of recent lawsuits, recent Supreme Court decisions, specifically Harvard and UNC, and the Students for Fair Admissions. I think, again, in terms of the legislative intent of the council, understanding that this is a specific, narrowly tailored conversation, and I think if we keep our eye on the ball in that regard, focusing on the fact that the United States, vis-a-vis Congress and the Reconstruction Amendment, has the authority to eliminate the badges and instances of slavery. I think if you keep your eye on the ball in that regard, that we can get around concerns around, the Equal Protection Clause, pending and inevitable lawsuits, because I'm pretty sure when y'all roll out something, somebody's coming. But that was pretty much all that I had, and I thank you for your time, counselors.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Stewart.